Dark clouds over the India-China relationship have dispersed. The 73-day-long standoff in Doklam in August last year had led to much tension and bad blood. Relations hit the worst patch in 4 decades. The countries were on the brink of war. But the new year has seen new moves. New Delhi and Beijing are now making efforts to resolve differences. Diplomats have been at work, high-level meetings have been held, more are on the anvil. It may not be enough to bring the change they envision. Any seasoned diplomat will tell you that for two countries to really come together, to work together, their people should come together. Soft diplomacy has a longer-lasting impact, we are told. India made the beginning with Bollywood. Indian movies are big hits in China. Over the last few years, many have earned millions at the Chinese box office. Beijing now proposes a new area of cooperation, and that is higher education. Both countries, India and China, have a young population. For trade ties to improve, businessmen from both sides must understand the practices and culture of each other. Indian students are increasingly picking Chinese universities over the traditional American or British options. In 2016, we can tell you, 18,000 Indian students were studying in China. That number should be much bigger in the years ahead, but the figures are not the same vice versa. China is yet to see India as an emerging education market. The Chinese government mouthpiece, the Global Times, that spewed threats during the Doklam standoff, is now suggesting how India and China can cooperate in the education sector. It talks about business schools in India, many ranked among the top 100 worldwide. Indian B schools are highly competitive, both in terms of cost and quality. The demand for high-end management talent is also very high in India, considering the services sector makes up for 60% of this country's economy. With a greater presence of Chinese firms in India, there will be increasing demand for Chinese management graduates who understand the Indian market. And this makes a very good case for Indian business schools to enroll Chinese students. These graduates can be assimilated into the Indian economy itself, or they can go back to their home country with a fresh perspective on India. In the long run, this could influence China's policy making vis-a-vis India. The rest, of course, has to be achieved by policymakers themselves. And the weeks ahead could see significant progress in that direction. We say that because two of India's top ministers are heading to Beijing. The defense minister and the foreign ministers will be in China next week ahead of the summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, better known as the SCO. That will be in June. Bilateral differences will be discussed, of course, also areas where the two sides can build on their relationship, and this could include resuming military exercises. WION Siddhant Sibal sets the stage.
China and India are stepping up their re-engagement. Two Indian ministers, Sushma Swaraj and Nirmala Sitharaman, will be in Beijing around the same time next week for talks with their Chinese counterparts, Foreign Minister Wang Yi and the newly appointed Defence Minister Wei Fenghe. While both the visits will lay ground for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in June, which Prime Minister Narendra Modi will take part in, there are bilateral issues to address. Swaraj is expected to convey India's concern over the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor or CPEC. Also, China continuing to block India's entry into the nuclear suppliers group. Swaraj will raise China's defense of Jaish terrorist Masood Azhar at the United Nations. China's foreign minister may seek to reassure India on the CPEC. He is expected to ask that India review its position to the Belt and Road Initiative. He may even make a strong case for a highway linking China, India and Nepal. The meeting of the two defense ministers promises to be interesting. China has promised resumption of bilateral military exercises that were not held last year owing to the Doklam standoff. India, China and Pakistan are also expected as SCO members to hold a joint military drill for the first time in Russia in June. These issues are expected to be fleshed out when Sitharaman and General Y meet next Tuesday in Beijing. Nobody expects a resolution of all the differences that underline India-China relationship, but both the sides understand the need to move out of the Doklam shadow and build on commonalities and restore confidence in each other. With video journalist Ankit, Siddhant Sibal, WION, New Delhi.
The next big visit to China will be that of Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. That's next week, and the big announcement expected is the revival of military ties between India and China. Let's first introduce you to the key characters in this episode, starting with India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. He's been working behind the scenes. He met China's top diplomat Yang Jiechi in Shanghai last week to lay the groundwork for high-level talks. The follow-up will come next week. On the 24th of April, India's Defence Minister, Ms. Sitharaman, will meet her Chinese counterpart, Wei Fenghe, in Beijing. The Doval-Yang meeting thrashed out the issues on the table. Yang is a member of the Politburo of the Communist Party of China. He's a very important man. He's director of the Central Foreign Affairs Committee. He reports directly to President Xi Jinping. So what he brings to the table is significant. Both Doval and Yang are on the same page on what shape India-China ties should take. Confrontation, they say, must give way to cooperation for both the Asian giants to realize their full potential and emerge as global leaders. Doval has been working to set the stage for a meeting between the heads of state as well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India and President Xi Jinping of China. So diplomacy has hit top gear, but what about the armies of the two countries? Are they keen on cooperation? The Indian Armed Forces are in favor of conducting exercises with the Chinese. They want a hotline between the military operations wings in New Delhi and Beijing. And as a special gesture, India is going to host PLA officers for military courses in the National Defence College. China is expected to reciprocate in Beijing's National Defence University. And these may just be the first steps. Deng Xiaoping told Rajiv Gandhi back in 1982 that the 21st century will be an Asian one only if India and China combine to make it so. Delhi and Beijing may be following his advice now.